by cell records. Well, what I see is you have this witness, but his story has shifted rather significantly over time. And you have these call records, but I don't think they're as ironclad as you're making them out to be. Because for the most part, they don't exactly align with your witness's narrative. There are key moments when they do support his version of that night. But what about the rest of the day?
You know, it's like it's so unfair because it's like it never the etched in stoneness of the phone records. It never goes in my way. It's just whenever it's proven what the prosecutor's saying, it's like, you know, the Moses tablet. Whenever it's something I'm saying, it's like the Holy Grail. Oh, we don't know where it is. We're not sure if it really exists. It kind of floats away. But that's not cool, though, because now what you're saying is that you can use the cell phone records when it benefits me.
That was the 30-minute cutoff. Adnan called back.
Yeah, I got cut off mid-rant. But, yeah, no, but just to finish up real quick.
The rant went on. Of all the calls, the 236 call is the most troublesome to Adnan. It's the one he probably thinks about the most, because that's the call that starts the whole chain. And he also thinks about it because he says he has an alibi for that time, the Asia letters, where she says she saw him in the library. Here's a weird thing about the 236 call. The prosecutors are very clear at trial that this is the come and get me, I'm at Best Buy call. But they're not basing it on anyone's testimony. Jay never says the call was at that time. In fact, he says repeatedly that Adnan called him around 3:40 or 3:45. Jen also says that's about when Jay left her house that day. But there is no incoming call at or near 3:45 on the call log. So the prosecution has to go with 236 because it's the only one that sort of lines Jay's story up with the log. It's their only choice. When you tease apart the state's case, you can get tripped up on details like this, which is maybe why prosecutor Kevin Urich addressed this head-on in his opening statement to the jury. He told them, look at the big picture. The main plot points in Jay's story have been consistent. He tells them that consistently Jay, quote, has always given the same story about what the defendant did where. Consistently, he tells Jennifer a consistent story. He tells police a consistent story about the defendant. He tells consistently the defendant's involvement, the defendant's actions on that day. He has never wavered on that point, unquote. That is a lot of consistentlys. And while maybe it's not great oratory, it does have the advantage of being true. In Jay's statements, while the particulars shifted, the spine of his story did not. Adnan told Jay he was going to do it. Adnan showed him the body. They buried her in Lincoln Park. They ditched her car. Jay has been consistent on those points. It's funny, there's this part of the trial that keeps coming back to me. It's when Cristina Gutierrez is cross-examining Jay. She's pointing out that he lied to detectives about various things, including the location where he says Adnan showed him Hayes' body in the trunk of the car.
And what you told them in your act of showing them that place, those were lies, weren't they?
They were not the truth.
Or the truth. What's the opposite of the truth?
Objection.
Insisting. You told them something that was not the truth.
No, I told them the truth.
Backed it. I'm finished.
I'm sorry.
And then you backed it up, showing them a place that was not true. Correct?
I told them the truth. I did not show them a location that was true, no.
He says, I told them the truth. I did not show them a location that was true. As oxymoronic as that sounds, I think I see what he's saying. Yes, I told some lies, but I told the truth. Overall, I told the truth. There are parts of Jay's story that make no sense, where it seems like there must have been more going on than he's saying. But here's what's also the truth. You can say the same thing about Adnan's story, too. Next time on Serial. Serial is produced by Julie Snyder, Dana Chivas, and me. Emily Condon is our production and operations manager. Ira Glass is our editorial advisor. Fact-checking by Karen Fragala-Smith. Our theme music is composed by Nick Thorburn. Scoring music by Nick.
Previously on Serial.
So it's a really tight, really window of time, I mean, for this to have taken place, right?
All right, ready? Yep. Okay. So I started at 2:51, and we're making a right out of the Best Buy parking lot.
Isn't that sort of tantamount to saying, I think Jay's telling the truth?
I'm saying I think the cell phone was in Lincoln Park.
This is a Global Tel-Link prepaid call from
Adnan Sayed.
an inmate at a Maryland correctional facility.
From This American Life and WBEZ Chicago, it's Serial, one story told week by week. I'm Sarah Koenig. The most incriminating piece of physical evidence against Adnan Syed was a fingerprint, or rather a palm print, on a map. It was one of those big map books you buy at a gas station. Police found it in the back seat of Hayes' car. On the back cover was a partial print of Adnan's left palm. One page was ripped out from the map. At trial, they pointed out that it was the page that showed Leakin Park. The defense argued, well, you can't put a timestamp on fingerprints. They could have been 6-week-old fingerprints or 6-month-old fingerprints. There's no way to tell. And Adnan had ridden in and driven Hayes' car many times. All their friends said so. The ripped-out page showed a whole lot more than just Leakin Park. In fact, it showed their whole neighborhood, the school, the malls, probably 90% of where they most often drove. And that page didn't have Adnan's prints on it. His palm print was only on the back cover of the book. Plus 13 other unidentified prints turned up on and in the map book. None of them matched Adnan or Jay. So the prints weren't exactly conclusive. Over the past few weeks, I've been holding up bits of evidence here and there that look bad for Adnan. Today, I'm just going to lay out the rest. Everything else that a person could reasonably add to the Adnan is guilty side of the scale. Everything that the state had that I know about. Some of these I've mentioned before, but let's just hang them all up side by side and see what they look like. First off, there's the question of whether Adnan asked Hay for a ride that day after school. Was he looking for an excuse to get in her car so he could kill her? Officer Adcock testified that the day she disappeared, Adnan told him he'd asked her for a ride. Adnan then later told a different cop he didn't ask for a ride. Then, you know how Adnan says he can't really remember much at all about the day Hay went missing? How it was just a normal day to him, nothing much stands out? I've wondered about that, the normalness of the day. Because wouldn't the call from Officer Adcock asking whether he's seen Hay, just in and of itself, wouldn't that call make it a not normal day? Something pretty unusual did happen to you that day, which was...
Oh, but the police
call you and say, do you know where Haley is? Right?
Oh, no, well, yeah, no, I do remember that phone call, and I do remember being high at the time, because the craziest thing is to be high and have the police call your phone. I'll never forget that.
I guess that's the only thing about the day that seems weird to me, that the day wouldn't then come into focus for you because you'd gotten this call from the cops, and you were high, you were young, it's a scary call to get, or just a jarring call to get.
At the time, the only thing I really associated with that call was that, Hayes going to be in a lot of trouble when she gets home if the police are at her house. If her mother actually, for whatever reason, if she didn't, go home or she went somewhere else, in no way did I associate this call with being, the beginning of this is this whole horrible thing. It's not, in no way is this like, a foreshadowing, I don't know if that's the right word, what's to come. Mm-hmm. So, to me, all this call was, man, Hayes going to get in a lot of trouble. Her mother's going to be pissed, man, when she comes home, right?
To be fair to Adnan, if this really was his reaction, then he wasn't the only one. The seriousness of Hayes' disappearance didn't start sinking in with her friends for a while. School was canceled on January 14th and 15th because of the ice storm. Then the weekend came. Then Monday was Martin Luther King Day. So the kids didn't all reconvene at school until the following Tuesday. All of Hayes' friends I spoke to said they initially thought Hay had either run off someplace with her new boyfriend Don, or, this was another rumor that a lot of people talked about at the time, that she'd run off to California. Friends said she talked about that sometimes, that her dad, or maybe it was her stepdad, was in California, and she wanted to go there. They told the cops the same thing. Next, the night before Hay disappeared, Adnan called her house 3 times. It seems like the only